The bell above the glass door of Miller's Diner jingled as another customer walked in from the cool September night. It was the kind of place where bells jingled 100 times a day, where the same chipped mugs of coffee were poured, and where the linoleum floor carried 30 years of grease that no mop could erase. For most people in the small town of Ashford, Miller's wasn't just a diner. It was the diner. Truckers stopped here on their way to the interstate. High school kids sat in the corner booths long after curfew, splitting fries and milkshakes. Elderly couples claimed the counter every morning at 7 sharp. Everyone who came knew the staff by name. Everyone knew Amelia Hart. She wasn't just the only young waitress still sticking around Ashford, she was also the one who carried herself with a quiet resilience, as though she had been born with the ability to hold too much on her shoulders. Her blonde hair was tied back neatly, her uniform pressed, her smile polite but thin. And then there was her arm. A thick bandage wrapped around her right forearm, stretching from wrist to elbow, stark white against the powder blue uniform. Some nights the cloth was clean, fresh from the pharmacy box she kept at home. Other nights, faint stains of red or brown seeped through, no matter how carefully she tried to hide them. The customers noticed. They always noticed. "Car accident," whispered one woman to her husband in the booth by the window. "Looks like a fight to me," muttered the trucker hunched over a plate of eggs at the counter. "She's too proud to tell anyone," another added. Amelia heard it all. She always did. But she never answered. She balanced a tray with her left hand, sliding steaming mugs of coffee onto tables with practiced ease. She kept her movements steady, her face calm, though each shift sent small shocks of pain through her bandaged arm. She couldn't stop. Not when bills piled up at home. Not when her mother's hospital treatments depended on every tip she made. Not when her younger brother looked at her like she was both parent and sister rolled into one. At the far corner of the diner sat a man she didn't recognize. He wasn't a trucker or a salesman, and he didn't have the look of a town local either. His dark hair was cropped close, his shirt crisp white, his tie loosened just enough to show he'd been somewhere formal earlier in the evening. His coffee sat untouched, the steam long since faded. But his eyes never left Amelia. Not in the leering way she was used to. Not in the distracted way most men watched her. His gaze was focused, studying, like he was waiting for her to give something away. Their eyes met briefly. Amelia felt her stomach twist. She turned away quickly, moving toward the counter where Carl, the cook, barked out an order of meatloaf and mashed potatoes. She lifted the plate carefully with her good arm, delivered it to the waiting customer, and turned again. The man was still watching. This time she forced herself to walk over. "Coffee warm up?" she asked, her voice polite but firm, pen poised above her order pad. The man tilted his head slightly. "Yes, please," she poured. His eyes flicked toward her bandage. "Accident?" he asked quietly. Her throat tightened. "Something like that." She gave him a tight smile and moved away, but the unease lingered long after she turned her back. Amelia retreated behind the counter, trying to shake off the weight of his question. She had heard it before. Curious customers always wanted to know about the bandage, as though her pain were small talk to fill the silence between bites of pie. But this man's tone was different. It wasn't casual. It wasn't nosy. It was measured, probing, like he wanted to test whether she'd lie. Carl slid another plate onto the pass-through window. "Order up. Double cheeseburger." "Got it," Amelia said, grabbing the plate with her left hand. The diner bustled on. Laughter from a booth of teenagers, the scrape of forks against plates, the hum of neon outside. On the surface, it was an ordinary Friday night. But beneath it, Amelia felt tension building like a storm cloud. Every time she crossed the floor, she felt the man's gaze tracking her. He didn't look away when caught. He didn't bother pretending to be interested in the food or the radio humming softly in the background. He was waiting for her. By midnight the crowd thinned. Truckers drifted back to their rigs. The teenagers piled into rusted cars, music blasting as they sped toward the highway. Amelia cleared tables, stacked dishes, wiped down counters, moving with the tired efficiency of someone used to long nights. The man in the booth stayed. When she passed him again, she forced a smile. "Kitchen's closing in 10 minutes. Can I get you something before we wrap up?" He studied her. His voice was low, steady. "Just your name." Amelia froze. Her knuckles tightened around the coffee pot. She kept her face neutral. Diner policy says I only serve food and drinks, she said lightly. He almost smiled, but his eyes remained serious. You already gave me enough, Amelia. Her chest went cold. How do you? She stopped herself. The less she said, the better. You know what, sir, we're closing. Have a good night. She turned quickly, retreating to the counter, heart pounding. The man finally rose from his booth, sliding a few bills onto the table. As he passed her on the way out, he leaned close enough that only she could hear. Accidents don't leave marks like that, he murmured, nodding toward her arm. Be careful who you trust. Then he was gone, the bell above the door chiming once more. Amelia locked up 15 minutes later, after Carl had left for the night. She tugged her coat tighter around her, stepping into the cool September air. The street was quiet, save for the hum of a lone street lamp buzzing overhead. She walked quickly, bag slung over her shoulder, sneakers scuffing against the cracked sidewalk. Ashford wasn't a dangerous town, not on the surface. But Amelia never felt safe anymore. Not since that night. Halfway down the block, she heard footsteps. Her pulse spiked. She glanced back. The man from the booth. He wasn't following closely, but he was there. Same direction. Same pace. Amelia swallowed hard and quickened her stride. 2 blocks later she turned sharply down an alley, slipping behind a row of shuttered shops. She knew the shortcuts, she had walked them 100 times. But tonight, every shadow felt alive, every corner a threat. When she emerged onto her street, she glanced back again. Empty. But the unease lingered. Her apartment was small, just 2 rooms above a laundromat, but it was home. She unlocked the door quietly, careful not to wake her younger brother, Ethan. Inside, the single lamp on the counter flickered weakly, casting the worn furniture in tired light. She set her bag down, exhaled, and finally allowed herself to peel back part of the bandage. The wound beneath was ugly, deep bruising, a gash stitched hastily at the 2 weeks ago. She touched it gently, wincing. That night replayed in her mind like a broken record. The alley, the shouting, the hand that grabbed her, the flash of a knife. She had told the doctors it was a mugging. She had told Carl it was a fall. She had told her brother nothing at all. But the truth was heavier. She had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. And someone wanted to make sure she never talked. Amelia didn't sleep much that night. She lay on the worn sofa with the bandaged arm propped on a pillow, staring at the ceiling as the sounds of the laundromat machines rumbled faintly below. Her younger brother, Ethan, slept soundly in the small bedroom, unaware of the storm circling closer around them. Her thoughts kept circling back to the man in the diner. The way he said her name. The certainty in his voice when he told her to be careful. Who was he? And why did he care? By morning, the questions had twisted into knots of anxiety that tightened with every passing hour. The next evening, Amelia returned to Miller's as though nothing had happened. The diner was alive with chatter and clinking silverware, the same as always. She smiled when she needed to, poured coffee when asked, and kept moving so no one would notice how distracted she was. But when the bell above the door jingled, her heart nearly stopped. It was him. He walked in calmly, as though he belonged there, and slid into the same booth as before. A few customers glanced up, then returned to their meals. But Amelia's hands trembled as she carried plates to the counter. She told herself to ignore him. Just another customer. Just another cup of coffee. But when she finally approached, pot in hand, her voice betrayed her unease. Black, right, he nodded. Thank you, Amelia. Again, her name. Smooth, deliberate. She poured, then leaned slightly closer. Who are you? His lips curved faintly, though his eyes stayed serious. David Miller. FBI. Her stomach lurched. That's not funny. Not meant to be. He slid a leather badge holder across the table, just far enough for her to see the seal. She caught only a glimpse before he tucked it away. I've been assigned to Ashford for 6 weeks. Organized crime. You're already in deeper than you realize. Amelia gripped the pot tighter. You've got the wrong person. David's gaze flicked to her arm. Do I? Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to laugh it off, to walk away. But her legs felt rooted in place. You saw something, David said quietly. 2 weeks ago, near the loading docks. Amelia's heart slammed against her ribs. The memory flashed sharp, the crates being moved in the dead of night, the men shouting, the sudden blade against her skin. How do you know? She whispered. Because you weren't the only one there, he said. And the people you stumbled across, they don't leave loose ends. A chill spread through her veins. David's eyes softened. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to help. But you need to trust me. Otherwise, he let the silence finish the sentence. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She moved through motions automatically, smiling, pouring, carrying plates, while her mind reeled. David left before closing, but not before sliding a small card onto the counter as he paid. David Miller, Special Agent, a number scribbled in ink across the back. Amelia shoved it into her pocket without looking. By midnight, when she finally walked home under the streetlights, she couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes followed her every step. At home, she locked the door twice, checked on Ethan, then sat at the kitchen table with the card laid flat before her. FBI. Organized crime. Witness. Her life in Ashford had been small but steady. Work, bills, hospital visits for her mother, late-night homework checks for Ethan. Safe, predictable, ordinary. Until 2 weeks ago. Until she saw men unloading weapons in the dark. Until one of them spotted her and chased her down. The bandage on her arm pulsed with memory. Now a stranger sat in her diner booth, telling her she was part of something far larger, far more dangerous. And the worst part was, she knew he was right. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, rain tapping against the cracked windows of Amelia's apartment. She stood at the sink, scrubbing a mug with her left hand while her right arm throbbed beneath the bandages. Ethan stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his hair sticking up in all directions. Morning, he mumbled. Morning, kiddo. Toasts on the table. He flopped into the chair, scarfing down food like only a 16-year-old could. For a moment, Amelia let herself smile. He was the reason she'd pushed through the pain, the reason she worked double shifts, the reason she never let herself crumble. If he believed she was strong, she had to be. But as she packed his school lunch, her gaze kept drifting to the card still lying on the counter. David Miller, Special Agent. She shoved it into a drawer before Ethan noticed. That night at the diner, the unease only grew. Every jingle of the bell made her flinch, every unfamiliar face made her wonder if danger had walked through the door. And then, near 9 o'clock, it wasn't just paranoia, because the men at the counter weren't strangers. She recognized them. The same broad shoulders, the same leather jacket, the same hard eyes that had glared at her in the alley 2 weeks ago before the knife slashed her arm. Her blood went cold. They didn't look at her right away. They ordered coffee, bacon, and eggs, speaking in low voices. But when one of them finally glanced up, a smirk tugged at his lips. They know. Amelia's hands shook as she poured their coffee. She forced her voice steady, but inside, panic clawed at her chest. What if they remembered her face? What if they already knew she'd seen too much? The bell jingled again. Relief flooded her when she saw David step inside, his jacket damp from the rain. He scanned the diner once, his eyes landing on the men at the counter, then flicking to Amelia. He gave the smallest nod. She didn't move toward him, but his presence steadied her trembling hands. He slid into his usual booth, ordered nothing, and simply watched. The men finished their meals, left cash on the counter, and filed out into the rain. Only when the door shut behind them did Amelia finally breathe again. After closing, David lingered near the doorway. You know who they are, don't you? Amelia hesitated. Denying it felt pointless. They're the ones who, she touched her bandaged arm, words catching in her throat. David's jaw tightened. You're not safe, Amelia. They won't stop until they're sure you can't talk. I never planned to talk, she whispered. I just want to live my life. You can't unsee what you saw. His voice softened, almost kind. You've already stepped into their world. Whether you like it or not. She looked down, her hands twisting the rag she held. What do you want from me? Your trust, he said. And your testimony. With you, I can bring them down. Without you, he let the thought hang, heavy in the silence. Amelia shook her head. If I talk, they'll come after me. After Ethan. I can't. I can protect you, David interrupted. But only if you let me. The weight of his words pressed on her like a storm about to break. For the first time in weeks, Amelia realized she wasn't just a waitress with a wound. She was a witness, a target, a piece in a game far larger than Ashford's quiet streets. And there was no going back.